I'm sorry, I keep getting messages from Zoom here. Hold on. In our survey, we recovered all of the monuments, I believe, for that first cutout on the southeasterly corner of the original Ivory Tract. We all fit very well. However, in the legal description for that tract, it referred to the southwest corner of that tract as being the same common corner as the Ivory original tract southwest corner, which I do believe that statement to be incorrect. Because if you follow that line out and you measure that, you come up 183 feet short of the calculated, and as I believe, monumented southwest corner of the original Ivory Tract. And I think that statement was the path to a train wreck, and that everybody subsequently said, oh, that must be the Ivory westerly line, which I disagree with. I believe the Ivory westerly line is west of that, roughly 183 feet, as evidenced by a line of old hackberry trees and a large wooden post, which is just out of place out there. It just sits there, and it's within probably a foot or two of the calculated distance. So I believe that what happened was when that deed was written, and I don't know who wrote it or how they wrote it in that legal description, I think calling that the southwest corner of the Ivory Tract was wrong.
That was for the two conveyances that were done in 1973?
Yes, sir. I believe those statements to be incorrect.
Okay. And can you walk the whole 25 acres, didn't you, doing the survey? Is that correct?
I did not personally walk it. I had a senior party chief walked it. A gentleman's been doing this for 30 years. And I worked with him very closely, but I have had some injuries and I can't walk those distances anymore.
Outside of that, he's testifying to something he didn't personally lay eyes on. It could be hearsay among other things. You would. What would you prove this is something that you normally rely on?
Mr. Savoy, did you rely on the input from your help when you were doing the survey? Is this the normal practice that you usually engage in when you do this sort of work?
This is standard practice, and it's been done my whole career, even when I was a party chief technician. And in most of our certifications say it was done by me or under my direct supervision. By board rules and by every standard available to a surveyor, we do not have to actually walk the property ourselves. We have to run the lines, but it can be done under our direct supervision, and it was.
John, I was continue my objection to that evidence. You had somebody do it, that's the person you read from. Okay, I have no objection.
Again, based off of your information that you gathered in the two reports you did, you also generated about 3 by 4 foot map of the Ivory property. Is that correct?
We produced a large exhibit to accompany our field notes, and to basically as a court exhibit to show the things that we found out there.
All right, let me turn the computer. Ken, I want to show you the exhibit real quick to see if this is what it was.
Yes, sir.
Again, this has been marked as Defense Exhibit 67. Is this what you generated based off of your information?
That is my survey, but not to the same scale that we produced it in, but it is a survey.
And Ken, you're certifying that as a surveyor, all the information you presented in your reports is accurate and correct based off the standards of your profession?
Yes, to the best of my knowledge and belief.
All right, Your Honor, at this point in time, I would like to admit Exhibits 66, 67, and 68 into evidence. Yes, sir. No, that's next.
Okay, I'm going to object to those as not being timely submitted, not being properly authenticated by an expert. And I'm gonna admit exhibit 66, 67.
All right, Mr. Savoy. And then for just so we clarify, the two conveyances in 1973 to Thomas Francis Ivory and Emma Francis Hughes, those two conveyances of property were within the 25 acres of the original Ivory tract. Is that correct?
Totally. Yes, sir.
Your Honor, pass the witness.
Any questions? Yes, Ron, give me up.
All right, Ken, Mr. Halton is going to ask you some questions. I'm going to mute my computer and he's going to ask you some questions, and I'll
right.
object if I have to.
Mr. Savoy, have you ever personally visited this property?
Yes, I have.
Okay. Did you personally walk the property?
Not the entirety of it, no, sir.
How much of it did you personally walk?
You have to go to hear his responses.
Oh. Yes, ma'am.
All right, Ken, repeat those answers, please.
I visited the property when I first contacted the Ivory family. I did not walk the boundary. But I have been on the property, but I have not walked the boundary.
And how much of the property did you actually walk?
I visited the property, sir. I did not walk it with the intention. I stood outside, I looked, but I did not walk around the property. No, sir. I relied on my party chief to do that.
So when you Mr. Savoy, did you personally see the fence posts and the line of trees that your crew chief talked about?
No, I did not.
What do you normally look for whenever you're looking for natural or man-made non-landmark type boundaries like that, non-survey boundaries?
I don't understand that's a deep question. There's we look for anything that is in the deed, anything that's called for, anything that's called for by the adjoiners. We look for natural monuments, artificial monuments. The reason we look for hackberry trees is because it's often evidence of an existing fence that is long gone. We look for things that stand out. We look for things that would indicate somebody has made a mark on the ground, but generally we look for what's called for in the deeds.
Did you find any man-made markers that were intended to be markers?
To the best of my knowledge, we found man-made monuments along the west line. We found evidence of occupation along the south line. And then when we found the post, I inquired of my party chief specifically about that in detail about what it looked like on the south line. I've been doing this for a long time. I've done a lot of field work myself, many years. He said that line looked like it had been occupied, but that post stood out. I said, how big is it? He said, it's a very large wooden post. I said, is there anything else out there like it? He says, no, there's nothing like it. Given that, and the rest of combined with the angular relationship to the easterly boundary and the distance that it fell at, it fell almost exactly on the position of the original Ivory deed. Therefore, I figured it was some kind of a marker. Best of my knowledge, that would be a good indication that that's the corner in the intention of the Ivory deed.
I'm going to show you your exhibit. Do you have that in front of you where you can reference it?
No, I do not.
Okay.
I'm very familiar with it, though.
All right. I'm doing this in reverse, so bear with me. I'm going to point to some markers. So right here is where you are saying that you located the post. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And you're stating that this was the incorrect
Yes, sir.
southwest corner.
Yes, sir.
I can do that, Judge. Do you want me to go in the other room or you? Okay. All I'll need right now. Okay, does that work a little bit better?
I'm fine.
Is that better on y'all's end in there? You're muted, Brody. I can't hear you.
Works great. It works great, Donnie.
Okay.
A lot better.
All right, I'm going to show you some points on here. I'm going to ask some questions about. So this is what you're claiming is the actual stump, correct?
I was told it was a post, a large post.
Okay. Was there anything located at this point?
I do not believe so. I don't remember at this point. What does my notation say? I don't have it in front of me, and I haven't seen it for weeks and months.
Okay. So you did find markers. Each one, just to clarify, along these lines, there are some circles with a compass point in them. Can you tell me what those are?
Generally, those are just symbols showing property corners of one sort or another, either calculated or found.
Okay. So can you explain to me what this property corner here was?
If I'm not mistaken, that was the northwesterly corner of that middle track there, of that second track that was cut out.
But this track follows the original line, correct?
That is not the original line, sir, in my opinion.
Okay. I'm not asking you your opinion. I'm asking, this was the original line according to all the previous deeds up until the one that you're disputing. Is that correct?
The deed that I have for the Ivory Tract, that would not be the original line. And all I can do is offer my opinion.
Okay. But this is a property tract here that was previously recorded and previously recognized by everyone who had encountered it. Is that correct?
I don't know what everyone else did. All I know is that those corners fit the deed for that tract of land.
Okay. So there's another corner down here, and there's a fence that ended here. Is that correct?
I don't remember the fence, but let's just get to the. My contention is that those two tracts are represented correctly on the ground as per deed, with the exception of the southwest corner of the first tract being called the southwest corner of the Ivory Tract. I believe that both those two tracts are within the entirety of the original Ivory 25-acre tract, but they fall far short of the westerly line.
They fall short of the westerly line
of the calculated and
direction.
of the westerly line of what I contend to be the Ivory 25-acre original line.
Okay, but there are other posts. You'll agree with me that there are other markers along that line. Is that correct?
Sir, that's a wreck out there. There have been, I think, my contention.
Non-responsive.
There are other posts along that line. Yes, sir.
Okay. You'll agree with me that there are multiple posts along this line, aren't there?
I will agree with you.
Okay. You'll agree with me that from your point down here at the southwest corner, your proposed southwest corner, all the way up to your proposed northwest corner, were there any points found along this line?
If I'm not mistaken, there were, whatever I found is on that survey. Again, I wish I had it in front of me, but once you plot out the original deed, that's where the thing falls.
Objection, Your Honor, non-responsive.
Just answer the question that he asked it. If he needs to have clarification, your attorney will, the Ivory's attorney will ask for that.
There are numerous monuments and property corners all throughout that area in varying positions.
Objection, non-responsive.
There are monuments along that line.
Mr. Savoy, what I'm asking you is, you'll agree with me that looking at this exhibit, there are no marked landmarks on this westerly line, are there?
Not having that in front of me, not having a clear view of it, unless it was marked as being found, there are none. Okay. So I'm sorry. I'm sorry. You can put it up as close as you want. I can't see it.
Let me ask you this way, Mr. Savoy. I'm here looking at it, and if I were to tell you that there were no found landmarks on that westerly line, would that surprise you?
No.
Okay. Mr. Savoy, I'm going to ask you again a similar question. If I were to tell you that there were no found landmarks on this line from the northwesterly corner to the proposed northeasterly corner, there are no landmarks following that, would you agree with me?
I would agree.
Would you agree with me that there are multiple landmarks from your supposed incorrect survey from this northwesterly corner to this northeasterly corner? There are multiple landmarks along that, aren't there?
As indicated, yes, sir.
Objection, argumentative.
Wait, everybody, only one at a time. You got to let him finish answering this question before you object. Your objection is what?
Objection, argument. And Mr. Halton said that Mr. Savoy's survey was incorrect.
Your Honor, that's what the crux of this is about. I'm going to say that multiple times today.
Over this time, but I'll make my own decision on what's correct and incorrect.
Okay. And just for clarity, I did not say that his survey was incorrect. I said that his proposed incorrect survey, the one that he is saying is incorrect. From this line, across this line, there are multiple landmarks on what you believe to be the incorrect line. Would you agree with me in that?
I would say that there are multiple monuments along that line. I do not believe that will go with that.
Objection. I'm responsive. Everything after multiple landmarks.
Other than the huge exhibit that you got, do you have just a regular size copy of the plat we're talking about?
Just the large one, and we also have the smaller maps rolled up. Would you like to have the map one up here, Your Honor?
Go ahead.
I have a copy of it, Your Honor, if you'd like it. Got a second one here.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep. Go ahead.
Okay, Mr. Savoy, the Ivory's 25-acre tract, that was originally deeded back in 1909. Is that correct?
I believe so.
So this line here, if you'll look at my pen, this is the line that was established in 1909. Is that correct? Would you agree with me?
No, I would not.
You would not agree with me that that's the line that was established? Oh, excuse me. This line here is the line that was established in 1909.
No, sir, I would not.
Okay. Which one would you agree with? Which one would you say was established in 1909?
The heavy line that I indicated on that line
Okay.
being the westerly line. That is my opinion.
Okay. So multiple deeds outside of the Ivory's original 1909 deed have referenced this line right here. Did you find that in any of your in any of your research?
Everything that I found in my research, I have indicated on that drawing. I do not recall all the details of all the deeds at this point. It's been quite a while.
Okay. Outside of your survey and what you're proclaiming to be the 1909 deed, was there any other deeds or any other surveys that ever indicated in drawing or in written form that this was the actual boundary line?
Yes, sir, I believe so. That whenever the I believe it's Janice Ivory, whenever she was had her tract surveyed for the house she was going to build, the surveyor then indicated that he substantially agreed with my line.
Okay. And that is this survey here, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So by your calculations then, this line here should follow your bold line, is that correct? Because that's the westerly boundary of the Ivory survey, correct?
Substantially. But I disagree with his angular relationships out there. I don't believe it goes in that direction. However, its distance westerly, I agree with pretty much.
Okay, but you don't agree with the fact that it's a north 10 degree, 34 minute, 48 second line, do you?
I disagree with that angular relationship. I believe it should be more towards the east.
Okay. Now, if we go back to your original survey, here is that angle of 10 degrees, 34, 48, correct?
I believe so.
And it's substantially outside yours, is it not?
It is.
Okay. Not only that, you'll see this little angle cutoff piece that follows the road. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Now that little angular piece, did you ever see it in any other surveys that you looked at when reviewing this?
That's the only, to the best of my memory and recollection, that is the only piece that looked like that.
Okay. In your surveys, did you go and did you check with the title company? Did you look at any title abstracts?
We did our own research and we pulled deeds, and no, I did not go to the title company.
Okay. Would it surprise you that every deed that the title abstract had and the title survey did for both pieces of property indicated this cutoff piece? Would that surprise you?
I did not know. Yes.
Okay. Would it surprise you that the only survey in the history of this piece of property that's ever come to a sharp point for the Ivory's property this far over and did not include that was your survey?
I have no response to that. Yes, I would be surprised.
You did not do the survey for United Built Homes, did you? This is not your survey, is it?
No, it is not.
No, this was Bent Pine survey, correct?
I don't know.
Who?
Do you agree with this survey?
It was whose survey?
Bent Pine.
Mr. Hawkins, whose survey? Or didn't catch it.
It's Bent, B-E-N-T, Pine, like a pine tree.
Got it.
Do you agree
Thank
that
you.
this survey, oh, I'm sorry. Do you agree that this survey accurately reflects Mr. and Mrs. Ivory's piece of property?
I can't answer that. I'd have to study that some more. I'd have to reassess everything. I gave my best idea where I thought it should be. I took all those things into consideration. I disagreed with it.
Well, you will agree with me that on their survey, it references the fence, the other property line that we spoke about earlier on your survey. That was this one.
All right.
You remember that?
Okay.
This survey references that going to this line, does it not?
I can't really see it. I'm sure it does.
Okay.
Yes, sir. I believe that to be the case.
So this survey references not only a portion right here on that, a landmark here on that line, but also a landmark here on that line. Is that correct?
I'm sorry. I really can't see it, and I need to have it in front of me to give you a real answer.
You'll agree with me that it references this point right here on that line and a landmark here on that line, does it not?
Yes, it does.
Okay. Now we're going to go back to your exhibit, your survey, that also references that same point and that same point there, does it not?
It does.
Okay. So, Mr. Savoy, just in short, is it your testimony here today that everybody else in the last 120 years has been wrong about this property and you have been right? Is that correct?
I can't say that.
Okay. You have not seen any other surveys or any other meets and bounds that back up, other than the deed that you're referencing way back when, that back up this survey, have you?
I have not found. Please restate that.
Other than the deed that you were working off of from 1909, deeding this property to the Ivories, and I'm going to set that aside for now. Have you found any other deeds, any other surveys, or any other written, documented evidence that backs up and concurs with your opinion that this exhibit is correct?
If I'm not mistaken, and again I'm going from memory here, I believe that one of the adjoiners to the west references their easterly corner as being in the Ivory. Their easterly corner as being in the Ivory westerly corner, but I can't tell you which deed that was at this point.
Okay, but there are dozens of other deeds that divide up that property to the east of the Ivories, aren't there?
Yes.
Okay.
As are indicated on the survey.
And according to your survey, all of those are also encroaching onto the Ivories property, aren't they?
I don't do encroaching. I show what's been deeded where I think those deeds go to.
What is this shaded area right here, Mr. Savoy?
I called it an area of dispute, did I not?
Okay. So an area of dispute, you would agree with me if I used the word encroaching, that their property is encroaching and in dispute with this area here, isn't it?
Yes.
And this property is in dispute with that area, isn't it?
Yes.
And this property that came up here and had that little dog ear is in dispute, is it not?
Yes.
And there's a little tiny gray area over here that's in dispute, isn't it?
Yes.
And a larger triangular gray area over here that is in dispute, isn't it?
Yes.
Okay. So all of these are in dispute with your survey, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Are any of these in dispute with each other?
I have not surveyed the world out there, just that area.
Just looking at your survey that you've created,
sir,
do you see that? Let me finish my question, Mr. Savoy. Looking at your survey that you created, do you see any evidence here that any of these other properties are in dispute with each other?
No, not with each other.
Okay. Do you see any dispute with any other property except your survey?
No.
Okay. Mr. Savoy, when were you hired by the Ivories?
I believe it's been over a year. I don't remember. It's been quite a while.
Were you hired summer of last year?
No, it's been a while. It's been, God, probably 2 or 3 years.
What's the date? I don't have this right here. I can't really see it very clear. Brody, maybe you can shine some light on it. What is the date of this exhibit drawing?
July 6, 2021.
July 6, 2021.
Is that when
Okay,
it
so
was? Okay.
you made this drawing July of 2021. Is that correct?
If it says so, yes.
So this drawing post dates this lawsuit. Is that correct?
No, I don't know. When was the lawsuit initiated? I don't know.
I guess just to clarify, Norm, there's another question. His Exhibit 66 survey report says on about August 2020, I received a phone call from Dennis Ivory regarding a property line dispute. So move on from August 2020. That's on Exhibit number 66 that was in a little bit ago on the survey report.
Okay. So you were contacted after you were brought in to find a way to make this slab fit on the Ivory's property, weren't you?
No, sir, that's not what I do.
Objection argumentative.
Straightforward question.
He can answer the question. I don't think.
I would never do such a thing.
Okay. When you were hired, were you told where the slab was, and were you told the full aspect of what was going on here?
I don't know the full aspect of any of this at this point. I was hired to recreate the original Ivory tract to the best of my knowledge and belief. And that's what I did.
Were you told that the Ivories had always believed that this was their property?
Yes.
Okay. Were you told that this property had been sold and conveyed multiple times since the deed that allegedly created this property?
No.
Would it surprise you to know that this piece of property, as the Trevino's allege, with this angle of attack, has been conveyed, sold about 10 to 12 times since the Ivories were conveyed their 25-acre portion?
We can't hear you, Donnie.
Okay. Would it surprise you to know that this piece of property in this shape with the dog ear and everything here was sold and conveyed 10 to 12 times between roughly 1909 and present day?
Nothing out there would surprise me, sir.
Okay. And that this is the first time this has ever been brought up?
I don't understand your question.
Would it surprise you to know that this is the first time that this has ever been brought up in a court of law disputing this property right here, even though it has been sold numerous times over the last 100 years?
I have no way to respond to that. I don't know.
Okay. I'll pass this witness, Judge.
Ken, I have one or two more questions. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Can you base your finding the original Ivory property based off of a deed that was on file in the county clerk's office on volume 6, page 39? Is that correct?
Yes.
And then you went back and you also looked and found within the Ivory property 2 deeds from 1973 conveying property from John Ivory to Thomas Ivory and Emma Frances Hughes. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And those are the only 2 pieces of property that were conveyed out of the original 25-acre grant. Is that correct?
That's all that we found. That's all that I found, my office found.
Okay. All right. On your exhibit that you generated, the big plat, you listed the concrete slab in the northwesterly corner of the Ivory property belonging to Cedric and Janice. Is that correct?
I did.
Okay. And that slab is within the original 25 acres of the Ivory property. Is that correct?
It is. Yes.
And one other thing, back in 1908, you may not have knowledge of this, but I want to ask it anyway. Was FM 222 in existence at that time?
I believe so. It was a road of some sort because it was referred to in the deed.
Okay. Is there a way based off of the existence of FM 222, is that a good reason for why you could not find the northwesterly corner marker?
Objection leading.
May I just say something? We went up
Objection,
and
anything without a question.
Well, hang on,
Objection, non-responsive to any question.
I'll redirect Ken. The northwesterly corner found on your exhibit was at the boundary of FM 222. Is that correct?
the deed called, yes, sir. The deed called for being in the southerly line of a county road.
That's the witness, Sean.
Mr. Savoy, the slab that the Ivories have poured and their house plat, that is outside of the Trevino proposed survey, is it not?
I don't know.
You'll agree with me that this portion here is the area that is claimed by the Trevinos to be the original Ivory 25 acres, aren't you?
I don't know what the Trevinos are claiming, sir.
You've been made aware that this boundary line is the disputed boundary line.
Absolutely.
Okay. The slab that the Ivories poured is west of that, is it not?
It is.
Okay. When you visited this property, what portion did you go to? Did you go here? Did you go here? How far
Sir,
into the property did you go?
I went by the slab and into the homestead and into the area that at the end of the driveway there.
Okay, so it's safe to say that you came in right here, you viewed the slab, and you went to the homestead right here, correct?
That is correct.
Okay. Now, where are these other portions that were deeded out of the original Ivory 25 acres? Which portions are those?
We're looking at the southeasterly area.
This area back here?
Those two tracts which I indicated right there with the deed references. Yes, sir.
This narrow tract and this narrow tract, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, those deed references, they follow this line, do they not?
They do.
Okay. So I'm gonna reiterate. This was deeded within the Ivory family, correct?
Yes, sir.
This was deeded within the Ivory family, correct?
Yes, sir.
And both of these parcels that were deeded within the Ivory family followed this property line. Is that your testimony here today?
That is the line that they were deeded. I do not believe that it was the westerly line of the 25-acre tract.
Objection, non-responsive.
If you go past the northerly
Objection.
To answer the question, I can say I overrule the first section about my response, but ask the next question.
Okay.
That line follows their deed line.
I'm sorry, say that again, Judge. I'm sorry,
we
Judge.
Can't hear you.
Can you hear me or not? Can you hear me now?
Donnie.
I hear you.
Okay. I
Donnie,
think
you're
they're
frozen.
freezing up. No, you're frozen. There you are. You're back. Y'all froze up there for a second. Okay. I'm sorry, Judge. What was that you said last? I didn't hear you.
I said ask the next question.
Okay. I'll pass this witness.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Okay, then Mrs. Savoy be excused?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, thank you, Mrs. Savoy.
Thank you, Ken.
Thank you, all of you.
Okay. Okay, we ready for Mr.
Golden.
Golden?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Mr. Golden, I need for you to add your video.
Yes, sir.
Well, I'm saying like, for a situation like this, so we can, I mean, I'll carry it with you.
All right, Mr. Golden, can you hear me?
Yes,
Mr. Golden, can you please state your full name for the court?
Charles Allen Golden.
And where are you employed, sir?
I'm employed with United Built Homes,
How long have you been there, sir?
30 years.
How are you employed with the United Built Homes?
I'm the in-house lawyer for United Built Homes.
How long have you been an attorney, sir?
I was sworn in an Arkansas bar in 1988. Texas.
Are you a
in
member of
90 I'm sorry.
are
Yes,
you a member of the Texas Bar?
Yes, I am.
Okay. Sir, did you prepare an affidavit for this court proceeding?
Yes, sir.
Your Honor, before we get too far into this, I want to reiterate my objection to Mr. Golden, same as I had for Mr. Savoy prior.
Okay, Donnie, we didn't hear any, if you made it, we didn't hear anything you said.
Oh, I wanted to reiterate my objection to Mr. Golden, the same I had for Mr. Savoy, with his being designated as an expert, not being timely, and just basically the same running objection I've had. I just wanted to transfer it over to Mr. Golden.
No problem. That would be overruled, but that will be made, and I'll consider that at the very end when I see the briefs and everything you talked about. Go ahead.
So reiterate again, Mr. Golden, you prepared an affidavit for this court proceeding?
Yes,
And this information that you put in the affidavit is based off of your experience at United Built Homes and also your knowledge of the Ivory case?
yes.
Do you know when Janice and Cedric Ivory contracted with United Built Homes to build a home?
I don't know it off the top of my head. Is that what you're asking? You want me to look at our system? It'll tell me.
Was it around April 29, 2020?
No, I'm looking at my affidavit. It says April 29th. You're correct. Yes, that's the date.
Okay. And did they have a set price for their home in their original contract?
Yes,
Was that a cost around $219,000?
let me find that in my affidavit. Yes, $219,430.
Did Cedric and Janice Ivory pay a down payment?
Let me double check. Yes, $10,000.
And you're aware that since that contract started, have they poured a slab, sir?
United Built Homes poured a slab. Yes,
Okay. But since this trial started, they had not been able to build. Is that correct?
that's correct.
Okay. Since the original contract was done back in 2020, has the price of their home gone up
Yes,
in terms of labor and materials?
yes, sir.
Is that correct? That the labor materials have gone up for their home?
Yes, sir.
And what is how much has the price gone up to on their home?
Well, it's when we last priced it, when I did the affidavit, it was $290,350.
Your Honor,
And you did this
Your Honor, I'm going to object to Mr. Golden's testimony on this, unless he's the one that prepared the actual amounts. I mean, he did the affidavit on it, but who was it that prepared the actual the estimates?
Don, yeah.
What's that?
He said he objects unless he can.
Okay, I think Brody's froze up. Everybody else is still good, I think.
Can you?
Okay, there you are.
Put on the predicate to show this exception to hearsay.
This was, can you repeat that, Your Honor?
The reason is that the information that he's testifying to, the values are hearsay. And can you put on testimony and prove that it's an exception to hearsay, or do you agree that this is hearsay? You don't have an ability to show an exception.
I'd say the information included in Mr. Golden's affidavit was the original contracts, which was on file with the county, and then he is actually listed as trustee on the contract. Is that correct, Mr. Golden?
I'm the trustee on the builder's mechanics lien contract. Yes.
Okay, and so you have actual relevant knowledge of the contract with the Ivories?
Well, it's one of our business documents. I'm familiar with how it's done. I'm the one who drawn up the document and so forth. Yes.
So this is based off of the information you have presented to the court is based off of business records that are kept in the regular course of business for United Built Homes.
Yes.
This is an exception to hearsay under business records.
Your Honor, we're still going to object as to best evidence. We haven't seen any of this, and without any proper testimony as to the prices that went into this estimate, I don't think Mr. Golden is the proper person to be testifying on this.
I sustain it for that. Go ahead and develop the other testimony you have.
Mr. Golden, have you ever spoken to Cedric and Janice Ivory regarding this case?
I spoke briefly with Miss Ivory several months ago, I believe. Yes, by telephone.
Did you have anything? Did you talk to her about the mortgage payments for the contract?
I don't believe so. I don't remember very well the nature of the conversation. It had more to do, I think, with helping her figure out how to get a lawyer. I don't think I spoke with her in detail about the payments. No.
But you do have knowledge of the original contract with the Ivories. Is that correct?
I'm familiar with it. Yes.
Okay. And would you agree that the building on the Ivory's home has stalled during this case?
Yes.
And in your affidavit, did you prove up a list of materials in section B for how the price had changed? This is what it looks like right here.
Okay. Could you restate the question, please?
In exhibit B of your affidavit, did you outline a list of changes to costs from the original to current based off the contract?
Yes.
And
Your Honor, I'm
are
going to object
these
to that.
costs?
Your objection. Your Honor, may I take Mr. Golden on a brief voir dire to ascertain where these numbers came from?
Okay.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Mr. Golden, I'm going to ask you a couple of questions about this Exhibit B. The original contract, we know that was part of the record, but I'm looking here at that current quote. That current quote there of lumberyard materials, $103,095. Do you see that?
Yes.
Where did that number come from? Is that your number, or is that a number you received from somebody else?
That's a number I received from somebody else.
Okay. What about any of those numbers under current quote? Did you receive those? Did you prepare that number yourself, or did you receive those from other folks within your company?
I received those numbers from other folks within the company.
Okay. Do you have any firsthand knowledge of current lumber prices?
No, I do not.
Do you have any current knowledge of any current building prices?
I have some passing familiarity with them. Yes, I've been working in construction, but I'm not the one who, I'm not one of the ones who is constantly talking with the people and finding out what the prices are. It's on our system.
So you would not consider yourself an expert on lumber prices or building costs, would you?
I would not consider myself an expert on lumber prices. That's correct.
Okay.
Building costs, probably not.
I'll pass that witness, Judge.
Anything else? Mr. Golden, did you, who were the individuals that you received the information for to compile those list of numbers?
Well, the numbers were compiled among three different people. Leslie Driscoll is the office manager, and she ran the numbers the way that's done is the numbers are in our system. And then a person who's running the pricing simply selects through and says, here's what this house gets. As of today, this is what the price would be. And then I summarized them myself and then ran them, conferred with one of our accountants here to verify that they looked accurate. And then we put them in the form of this list.
So this information was in your control and in your. Donnie, did you say something? You're cutting out.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. I didn't know you had another question. Go ahead.
Okay. So this information within your control as an employee of United Built Homes. Is that correct?
I have access to it. Yes. Me and several other people. Yes.
And you compiled this list based off of your years of service at United Built Homes and as an attorney. Is that correct?
Yes.
All right, Your Honor, based off of that and based off of Mr. Golden's testimony, I'd like to admit exhibit number 69 to evidence.
And Your Honor, we're gonna object as to any testimony as to building costs or anything outside of that as being the best evidence rule and hearsay.
Okay. I'll admit it at this time, subject to your objection, the memorandum we talked about earlier.
Oh.
I'll review your objections prior to relying on this. When was this document produced in this lawsuit?
I think there was a seal on towards the front, Your Honor.
So the affidavit is February the 17th, 2022.
Is that correct, Mr. Golden? When this affidavit was generated was February 17, 2022?
That's when I signed it. We were preparing it within the few days prior to that, trying to compile our figures. So I'd say starting a week before it until the day I signed it is when we were putting it together.
Okay. Any other questions?
A few final ones, Your Honor. Mr. Golden, since the original contract was signed back in 2020, and the price of this home has increased based off of your affidavit. Is that correct?
Based on my understanding and based on what I said in that affidavit, yes.
And this is based off of the litigation that has caused this delay?
Well, there's been a long delay, and this litigation has been a significant part of that, yes.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Okay. Cross?
Mr. Golden, have there been any other delays outside of litigation?
Well, there was a substantial period of time prior to the commencement of litigation. If you say litigation, meaning the filing of a lawsuit, I don't know the date that the lawsuit was filed, but I think it was substantially after this project stopped because of a disagreement over the title of the property.
Okay. Mr. Golden, you're familiar with the survey that was used to start construction on the home, aren't you?
I've looked at it at various times, yes.
And that's this survey here that we've brought to court today, and I believe Mr. Smith has admitted into evidence.
Could you move it up, please?
I have not
this is
that
one here.
evidence.
Oh, okay. Well, we can do it now, I guess.
What exhibit is that?
We'll admit it then if it's, actually, I think we have, let me double check.
It
was,
agreement 1, 2, 3, and
it was
10 through
plaintiff's-
22.
It was plaintiffs too, Judge.
Yes.
Can I see a copy of that? Okay, so if we can identify that on the record, that's exhibit
Okay.
number 2. Plaintiff's exhibit number 2, okay?
Here you go.
Okay, now, go ahead.
Okay. Mr. Golden, at the top of plaintiff's exhibit number 2, it says in here, surveyed for UBH. That's United Built Homes, correct?
That's correct.
And that's who you are currently employed by, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. So you'll agree with me that this is the survey that United Built Homes relied upon when they started the construction on the Ivory home. Is that your understanding?
Well, can you move it up? I can't see but part of it.
Oh, I can back it up a little bit. Maybe if you're full screen, you might can see it better.
It looks like the correct survey. Yes.
Okay. Now, Mr. Golden, in your area of work, in your practice, do you see a lot of surveys?
I do. Yes.
Okay. You would agree with me that this survey, at least in this portion of it, looks significantly different from this survey. Is that something you'd agree with?
Certainly. Yes.
Okay. You would agree with me that sometimes surveys vary from one surveyor to another. Is that an accurate statement?
That is accurate. Yes.
And sometimes those variations can be slight to severe. Is that accurate?
That's accurate as well.
Okay. If one survey or one general shape of a property has withstood 100 years, and then another survey comes along that's drastically different and purports to be an accurate survey,
Objection.
in your
Lee.
This person. Overruled.
in your opinion, the newer survey that comes along, is it more likely or less likely to be the accurate survey?
I don't think that's enough facts for me to make such a determination. There would take
Okay.
a lot more information than what you just said for me to look at 2 surveys and say this one's the more accurate of the 2.
That's understandable. But again, you've been brought here in your capacity as an attorney for UBH and for your experience in dealing with building. In your experience, if you have 100 years of precedence and then a new piece of information comes along that goes completely against that, are you more likely or less likely to believe the new information or the 100 years of precedent?
You talking about in the context of survey plats?
Correct.
Once again, I think your question is too simplistic. You can't just look at a 100-year-old survey and a brand new one and say the older one's the more accurate.
That's understandable. What if you were looking at a survey from 2020 versus a survey from 2021? Which one would you say was more accurate?
Being 2020 and 2021 doesn't have anything to do with which one's more accurate,
Okay.
in my opinion.
All right, I'm going to ask you this question. Have you had an opportunity to look at this survey? Have you ever seen this survey?
I cannot say that I haven't, but I don't recall seeing that survey.
Okay. You're familiar with the Ivory file, aren't you?
Somewhat, yes.
Okay. So you can't say for certain whether this survey is in the Ivory file, can you?
Not just here testifying. I could look in the file and see, but I can't tell you just here in court whether it is or not.
But you know for certain that this survey is, correct?
I know that that looks like the survey that is in our file. I haven't examined every detail of it.
All right. Mr. Golden, do you know, based upon the contract for construction, never mind, strike that. Mr. Golden, have you ever personally visited the property in contention today?
I have not.
Okay. You've never been there personally, but you've only seen photographs or drawings, renditions?
I've looked at photographs and like you said, I've looked at the survey plat.
Okay. I'll pass this witness.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Okay, can he be excused?
Yes, sir, he can.
Okay,
Thank you, Mr. Golden, for your time.
we're gonna go off of Zoom and take a 10-minute break.